Right, when you are going out sketching, you want to get things down quickly and simply and in a kind of shorthand way. So first of all, you need to get the tones of the colour, the light or darkness of colour. So what I've done here is I've put 6 down to 1, 6 being the darkest. So where I need the darkest in the sketch, I put 6, and then it goes right down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I've also put the light, the colour in words and in blocks of colour. Now, all the details you can half or partly do, otherwise you're going to be outside forever doing all these tiles, and you can just do them very, very quickly. I've done little blocks of colour and just quickly little sketches of a window. Everything I need, like words, I partly do. And again, coming back here, I've got arrows saying part flint, part brick. So everything's done very, very quickly so that I can use them when I get home. The last little bit is the light source, and that's very important by putting an arrow in. I've done a large drawing from my sketch, full-size scale, and I've put the details of the windows and the wall and the door in with masking fluid, and I've allowed that one to dry, so we're all ready to start. The next step is I'm going to do the sky, which seems to be quite sensible. And I'm going to wash over the sky area with water, and I'm going to splinter some colour into that so that we can do quite a large area, and you can put the pigment in the wet. Right, all over the sky, so it won't adhere to anywhere else except where I've put the water. And to intensify that, I can take the colour from the tip of a blue to get more clouds. Right, just a little bit more there. Right across the back. Another colour of yellow ochre into that, and then I can work into that with some grey and get some patterns on here. Right, now the next step is to block all the greenery in with dry pencil, and I've used about 3 different greens, and I've wrapped this greenery around the edge of the thatch so it shows it up through there, round there. I'm using a ready orange because this is a ready brick front to the cottage and to the shop. Then I'm going to cross hatch because it's quite a bright colour. Bright orange. Then I'm going to put some grey because there are slithers of flint going through the house, and this softens the whole thing. So this is a neutral grey, which I'm blocking in the roof now. It's a yellow ochre, browny colour, and a burnt sienna. Now what I'm doing next is I'm drawing in the tiles across the roof, and this can be done on a wet surface, or it doesn't really matter if it's dried slightly anyway. So it can be dry on wet or wet on dry. Now we've got the edging tiles, so I've drawn them around the corner like that, and then we've got the other tiles coming right across the front of the roof, and I've drawn each layer and then the individual tiles. So I'm going to draw in some bricks. So it's going to be quite similar to the tiles, but some of them are going to be a little bit darker. So the darker the windows, I can get the darkest colours I've got, which could be a brown and a blue, and I'm going to put this around the masking fluid so that it's really going to show up. Now I'm going to place a little bit of shadow, this is the brown and the blue, into both of the doors. So this is Miss Marples cottage, and this is the door of the shop. Right, got a nice shadow in underneath here, and a little bit of the structure of the door and the porch. Now I'm darkening some of the brickwork because it's sunk in a little bit. This is brown and burnt sienna. Bring this down the side of the house there and over to the shop front. Right, to break up the kind of greyness of the tarmac road, I'm going to put a grassy bank in, and this involves one of the techniques I've shown you, of course, and I've twisted the pigment so it comes wet and dry here. This gives a kind of textured foreground here. Could work in just a little bit more blue, just to give it a little bit more depth there. I'm just rolling these pencils over so that I can get the maximum pigment from them, and there's two colours, so it gives a kind of mottled effect, and it's not quite one colour or the other. Perhaps a little bit more grey as we go into the background, so it fades slightly. There we go, down over there. And the splattering does mottle the whole surface up so that it does give you a variation on the whole expanse of the road. There we go, so putting that through. And on the wall over here, again it's got a bit of a cement rendering there, which could again be a little bit dull. Right, I'm just placing the colours to form a couple of window boxes here. So I'll block those in dry and then putting this in wet. So it just adds a bit of interest around the door. And I'm going to lighten this white notice here. This is a very famous notice in our village, and it's always been there for years and years. And I've put the masking fluid on for the lettering, and then I'm putting this over the top. Right, I'm just finishing off with some details with the dry, brighter pencils, lifting the pressure so that the pencil mark tapers slightly and it just intermingles with the other pencil marks already there. Now I'm going to rub off the masking fluid, so you need to apply a lot of pressure and just press quite hard, and it'll just peel off, but it has to be absolutely dry. All the paint around it has to be dry, and it's rather good for lettering. Can you see that this is coming off now? Yeah. And it's a lovely lightness of the paper showing through and all the details. So one feature which I have missed out and I'm just putting in now is the soft tree shapes at the back. And this goes over the watercolour wash, and this is done dry. Right, and now for the very last thing I meant to do to the picture. Get a bit of blue, and I'm going to put the shadows in. This is quite a brightish blue, but it needs to be dark too, so lots of pigment and lots of water. Wash this right over the top. You need to be fairly quick, but firm. Now down over here. This gives it a structure and a little bit more excitement to the painting, otherwise it's a bit flat without the shadows. And you need a bit of contrast between this building and Miss Marples' cottage, and a wash of blue coming, a lovely shaft of shadow coming over there, and that connects one building to the other, and that comes up there. And this is just a French ultramarine blue. Also need just a little nick underneath there, I think. These pencils will offer you the opportunity to discover your own style, and we've all got our own style deep inside us. So now's your chance to discover things for yourself.